Hi and welcome back to Love English. Now, most of you are used to learning idioms or phrasal verbs, maybe a bit of grammar with Love English, but today I'm going to help you with something that I think could be a particularly difficult, tricky situation that you might find yourselves in. Today we are looking at ways to deal with rude comments, rude or unpleasant people. People that might use bad language against you. They could be sexist, racist, or just generally negative towards a specific group of people. Often because of ignorance and a lack of understanding, but sometimes just because they are plain stupid. Now, this lesson is not about responding to those comments in a way that can actually lower you to their level. I'm not going to give you any language that could be insulting or rude. I'm going to share with you my 9 expressions that I think are the best way to deal with people that are rude. They might make them think about what they have said or simply make them look the fool that they are. Remember, 2 wrongs do not make a right. So using bad language or calling them names is only going to make you as bad as them. When you have a good understanding of a language, you can rise above these people. You can actually put them in their place and address the bad language or stupid things they have said. So these expressions are smart, they are classy, they are wise, and they are making the most of the English language to make you sound smarter. So remember, language is power, and these 9 expressions are going to give you that power back to deal with such foolish, stupid, and rude comments. If ignoring these people is not an option, if something they have said is particularly offensive to you or the people you care about, then this first expression might help them think about what they have said. I'm sorry, what did you say? Using an intonation that expresses shock or disbelief might make them reconsider what they've said or rephrase it in a less offensive way. It could even make them realize just how rude they were being. So number 1, simply ask them, I'm sorry, what did you say? Number 2 is a fantastic expression. It is one that really makes people think about what they are saying. Sometimes you might add at the beginning, my mother always told me. My mother always told me. My mother always told me if you don't have anything nice to say, best not to say anything at all. If you don't have anything nice to say, best not to say anything at all. Now, this expression could be worded slightly differently, but the essence is that better to keep your mouth shut if you haven't got anything decent to say, anything positive. And this really is a common expression in English when people are facing negative comments or indeed rudeness. My mother always told me if you haven't got anything nice to say, best not to say anything at all. Number 3, similarly, it's really focusing on the fact that being rude, using bad language or making very negative comments that can be offensive is a little bit of a waste of time. This comment is actually one that I came up with. That's not a very productive comment, is it? That's not a very productive comment, is it? If someone's being rude, negative, offensive in the office, amongst your group of friends, at school, at uni, you could simply just make them aware of the fact that what they're saying is not really helping anybody. That's not a very productive comment, is it? The question tag there is rhetorical. You're not actually expecting an answer back, but if they try, let's see what kind of justification they can give for being so rude. Right, number 4 and 5 are essentially idiomatic expressions that have very similar meanings. It's basically making people think that perhaps they're being a little bit hypocritical. They might be criticizing somebody for doing something that they themselves actually do. So, some very common and wise idiomatic expressions in English to help you deal with rude comments are: people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Essentially, when you're making a negative comment towards somebody, when you're saying something offensive, rude, or judging somebody, you should be careful because you yourself might have similar characteristics or qualities. So to criticize another person for that is, well, hypocritical. Number 5, pot calling the kettle black. Well, That's pot calling the kettle black, isn't it? Hello, pot calling the kettle black. This expression essentially means, again, if you're criticizing somebody for a characteristic that you yourself may have, then you're essentially being a hypocrite and you are in no position to make that kind of judgment or comment on another person. So these are just fantastic, classically British expressions to use when dealing with somebody that's being very hypocritical and judgmental. Now, these next expressions are getting a little bit stronger, showing that you are really asserting yourself and standing up to these people that are being rude, offensive, or very judgmental. Be careful with number 6, because if used with the wrong intonation, you might sound a little bit childish, but when used with a more authoritative voice or intonation, then it could just make them think twice. Well, as they say, it takes one to know one. Well, as they say, it takes one to know one. So essentially, you're flipping this back onto the person. Whatever they might be saying that is rude or offensive, you're suggesting that they are exactly that way themselves, but without using bad, offensive, or rude language. Well, they say it takes one to know one. Number 7 is pretty strong, but again, it's not really rude. It's essentially standing your ground, telling someone that you will not tolerate the kind of comments that they are using, and pointing out their lack of knowledge on a particular subject. So, if only closed minds came with closed mouths. If only closed minds came with closed mouths. Essentially, you're saying that their mind is closed. They haven't got enough information to make a comment on the subject or on the person. If only closed minds came with closed mouths. Number 8. This again is about using more sophisticated vocabulary, more advanced vocabulary to show that you are above what they are saying. I'd be inclined to keep my comments to myself if I were you. I'd be inclined to keep my comments to myself if I were you. For those of you who have got good English grammar, that is second conditional. You're essentially giving them some advice. Basically, if I were you, I would keep that shut. If I were you, I'd be inclined to keep my comments to myself. Number 9 is pretty strong. When you really have just had enough of this person, the rude comments they have been making, use this. If ignorance is bliss, then you must be the happiest person on the planet. If ignorance is bliss, then you must be the happiest person on the planet. Now, in English, we have an expression to say ignorance is bliss, meaning the less informed you are, basically the stupider you are, the happier you are, because you don't know the real problems that are going on in the world. We're taking this comment and we are essentially telling somebody they're stupid, and that's why they must be so happy and unaware of how stupid they are. If ignorance is bliss, then you must be the happiest person on the planet. Now, of course, 9 times out of 10, people don't always realise what utter crap they are talking. But at least by standing up to them, by having that powerful language to defend yourself and others, is going to really empower you and put these people in a position to think about what they have said. But remember, 2 wrongs do not make a right. There is really no point insulting another person, using bad language, and generally lowering yourself to their standard. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you comment below. Tell me about a situation you may have been in when someone was rude to you. Did you know what to say in response? Do you know what you would like to say now? Use those 9 comments below, using the ones that you think are perhaps most effective and appropriate for some of the situations you have been in. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.